There we go. All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. This webinar is all about multi-tier fundraising, which we call sub-campaign fundraising. So this is a way that you can break down high goals, so high monetary goals, into smaller sort of divide and conquer strategies. And there's different ways that you can do that. But before we begin, I'm just going to tell you a little bit more about ourselves. So this is Kemble here. He's our awesome host and implementation manager. So if you are running campaigns on Fundraiser or any of our affiliates, Kemble's the one who helps you set up. Myself, I am a strategist and content writer. So I work with organizations who need a little help with deciding what kind of campaigns to run, what to put in their campaigns, and that sort of idea. So we're all part of the campaign success team here at FundRazr, and we're here really for your success. So that's our entire goal. And that's why we run these webinars, these free webinars, is because we have years of experience behind us. FundRazr started back in 2009, 2010. And our CEO and founder, Daryl Hatton, is the one who started it, and he's still very much involved today. So he's pretty much been around in crowdfunding since it became a thing. And he learned lots of different things, what works, what doesn't work. And he passed that down to us, and we want to share that with you. So that's why we're here today. So what are we going to go over? First, we're going to go over what a sub-campaign is. So if you're sitting here going, I have no idea what you're talking about, don't worry. We'll talk all about what it is and why it's helpful. We'll go over the differences between values of the different types of sub-campaign layouts that FundRazr has. So there are three main ones: peer-to-peer, do-it-yourself, and micro projects. I'm sure that you've heard of peer-to-peer campaigns before. If you have, that's still great. You might learn a thing or two here today. And if you have not, great. That's why we're here. We're going to go over exactly what it is, as well as the basic setup and management. We'll go over a live demo of that so you can understand how it works on FundRazr. And I should let you guys know that only organizations can run sub-campaigns on FundRazr. And an organization is someone who has set up an organization profile on FundRazr. You do not have to be an established charity, nonprofit, 501c3. You don't have to be that in order to start an organization profile on FundRazr. You just have to start one. So even if you're an individual running a fundraiser, maybe for an organization you volunteer for, or one that you want to start and it's just you, that's okay. You can still start an organization profile. And we'll let you know how to do all of that. This is a short webinar, so it should only be about half an hour long or so. We're not going to keep you for the full hour. We have the full hour in case you have tons of questions. That's not a problem. Just wanted to give you a bit of an idea of a timeline. So let's get right into it. What is a sub-campaign? A sub-campaign is a level, the second tier level that exists under a main campaign. So on FundRazr, what you do is you will start a main campaign. And what that does is it sets the tone for all of the sub-campaigns under it. So you've got an overall goal, you've got overall funds raised, overall contributors, and all of these stats and data are pulled up from each of that main campaign's sub-campaigns. So you can have as many sub-campaigns as you like under a main campaign, but you can't have more than 2 tiers. So you can't have, this sub-campaign right here branch off into its own different sub-campaigns. You can't have that. There's only these 2 tiers. And the reason we set this up this way is because if we allowed sub-campaigns of sub-campaigns, not only would the system get overly confused, but you guys would get overly confused as well. So to keep things simple, we limit it to 2 tiers. And I get asked all the time, here's my use case scenario. Wouldn't it be more helpful to have sub-campaigns of a sub-campaign? And in theory, yes, it would be helpful. However, we've been working with online fundraising for a while, and believe me, it would get very confusing if we allowed more than 2 tiers. But there's always ways to work your story, to work your ask, your goals into these 2 tiers, main campaign and sub-campaign. So now, why create sub-campaigns? Basically, what this helps you do is break down one giant ask. Here, let me get rid of my face here. I'm going to get rid of my face altogether. Is break down one giant ask into smaller asks that are easier to manage and easier to achieve. And this might not be, you have a big project with a lot of different phases to it. That's one way that you can do it. But sometimes it's just as simple to break this down into smaller groups for your communities. So that's what peer-to-peer fundraising is all about. It's all about having your network target their network. So you're really breaking down the ask and the way that you do it, as opposed to breaking down the project itself. And we'll explain a little bit more about how that works. These are the types of sub-campaign layouts that Fundraiser has. So we have peer-to-peer, which is the one that you're probably most familiar with. We have do-it-yourself, which is a lot like peer-to-peer. It just essentially takes away the competition element of peer-to-peer. And then we have micro projects, and micro projects can be broken down into either leaderboards. This is if you want a competition factor to your project, or grid, where the sub-campaigns are viewed more as tiny little widgets and they're randomized. So that's if you want to showcase the different parts of your project, as opposed to a leaderboard of what part of your project is doing better. So there's no competition factor. Really, the difference between these two are, how do you want the sub-campaigns to look on your main campaign? And again, don't worry, we're going to go over examples of this. We'll go over details. I just wanted to give you an overall view of the different types of sub-campaign layouts available to you. All right, we're just going to jump right into it, because the easiest way to describe sub-campaigns is to actually go over examples. So a peer-to-peer campaign, this is, again, the most popular one. This is usually based around an event. Actually, I'm going to go back here. It's usually based around an event. It doesn't have to be, but it usually is. And you have your network register as fundraisers, where they actually own their own sub-campaigns, whether as an individual or as teams, and they utilize their sub-campaign to share it among their community members, and they fundraise for you that way. So a sub-campaign lives under your main campaign and is attached to your bank account, your PayPal, your Stripe. So the funds go directly to you. The funds don't have to go to whatever team or individual is fundraising for you. It goes directly to you. And your fundraisers don't have to see any details that you don't want them to see. There's tons of settings on the main campaign where you can choose what a sub-campaign owner, so an individual or a team fundraiser, what they can do versus what they can't do. So they won't ever be able to see the details of your PayPal or your Stripe. Don't worry about that. They will never, ever, ever be able to see that. But for example, you can choose whether or not you want them to see their own transactions. So if you want to allow them to see, great. I mean, chances are they know every donor who's donating to their campaign. But if you don't want them to see that information, if you want to keep donor information private, you can do that. So you don't have to worry about having volunteer fundraisers fundraise for you. If that's something that you've been worried about. And that's a question that I get a lot is, I don't want them to be able to have access to any of my information, any of my bank information, private sensitive donor information. You don't have to have any of that if you don't want to. Now, why is a peer-to-peer campaign useful? There's basically one main reason is that you are targeting a whole new community of supporters. So if you're an organization right now, think of the network that you have, whether that's your email list or your Facebook followers, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, whatever. Think of your network right now. If those people, even 10% of those people, were to fundraise for you, think about how much bigger your network is now, because you're not only targeting your network, you're targeting your network's network. So your community's community. So your audience just grew a lot. And that's one of the main reasons why organizations will do peer-to-peer events, is because they have the potential to target a bigger audience. Plus, it's community engagement. And you'll see how in these different examples that I'm going to show you today, is they're all very creative ways to engage your community, which helps you build a relationship with them and helps them understand what value you bring to society. And building that relationship is important for your organization and future campaigns, because if your fundraisers have fun fundraising for you and learn about it, if you have another campaign in the future, they're likely to fundraise for you again. Or if it's just a simple campaign where you're asking for donations, they're also more likely to donate to those campaigns. So it's really great for community engagement. Now, what are some examples? The first example I'm going to show you is my favorite campaign ever. Kemble and I work with this lovely woman. And Kemble, is that good? Can you see that? I'm trying a new way of sharing.
Yep, I can see.
Okay, awesome. Instead of clicking on links, I wanted to try to click and drag the screen in, because in previous webinars, I would just kind of screw myself up. So great. So this is the Ring of Fire campaign. This was started by a lovely woman, Cassia, whose husband, Jeff, had colorectal cancer. So to help raise money for the Alberta Cancer Society, and that's where they live, is in Alberta, Canada, she started a Ring of Fire fundraiser. And the whole concept is you register to fundraise, and the event is you're going to the craft beer market and trying different hot sauces. And I think it gets pretty intense. You get to some pretty high level hot sauces there. Her husband, Jeff, loved hot sauce, and she beautifully integrated that idea into her story, because colorectal cancer, we all know what happens when we eat spicy food. So that's the whole idea, is let's raise money for colorectal cancer, and we're going to eat a bunch of hot sauces, try a bunch of hot sauces. Unfortunately, her husband passed away last year, but they still ran the second annual Ring of Fire fundraiser in his name this year, and they absolutely killed their goal. And Cassia is just an individual. I don't want to say just an individual. She is a wonderful human being. However, she doesn't work for Alberta Cancer Society. She just fundraises for them. And through her and Jeff's network, they raised over $23,000 Canadian, which is phenomenal for an individual to inspire. And she did that because she called on her community, and her community registered to fundraise with her. So she was now targeting their communities as well. And if you want to see some good storytelling, you should go see this campaign, because she takes an extremely sad situation and makes it funny in a sensitive way, in in a great way that connects her readers emotionally to her story. And I think that is also a huge reason for her success in this campaign, was because of her story. After this webinar, either today or tomorrow, you will receive an email with the recording for this webinar, and also the links to all of the demo campaigns that we show you, because we want you to be able to see and explore on your own. So definitely make sure that you check out this campaign and its story, as well as for how she set up the campaign itself. And if you want to see any of the sub-campaigns, then you can easily check those out by clicking on the Fundraisers tab here. So if we click there, we can click on Cassia's sub-campaign. So this is the one who runs it, and she participated herself. And you can see that her sub-campaign looks pretty much exactly like the main campaign. So if we go back here, you can see the background's a little different. She changed the background. She got really creative here, but the setup is essentially the same. Now this campaign is finished, but if it wasn't finished, you would see the contribution button right here. So just like all of our other campaigns or standard campaigns, it's easy to contribute, it's easy to share. You still have all of these different share links down here. And in the next campaign, I'm going to show you what a team campaign looks like, but all of Cassia's fundraisers are individuals. So it's one person running each sub campaign. So this is Cassia's. She can add her own story right here onto the main story that she includes with all sub campaigns. So this story right here automatically plops on to each sub campaign, and the sub campaign owners cannot change it. Cassia can, because she owns the main campaign as well, but this is the part that the sub campaign owners can edit. So they can put in, why did I decide to fundraise for this organization or participate in this event? But you can also make sure that the proper information about the fundraiser and why you're running it exists on every sub campaign, because there's the unchangeable story version down here. Yes, I love this campaign. This campaign is amazing. Okay, so what is the next campaign we're going to look at for peer-to-peer? We are going to look at the extra mile. We shove that in here. So this is a campaign run by an organization. So this organization is Himalayan Life, and they're based in Canada, but they raise funds to improve the lives of people in the Himalayas. They run this event. This is a live event. I believe this is their second or third annual event. And this is an interesting one because they provide options for their event. So let's look at the structure of this campaign first, though. So again, we have the main campaign here, and the main difference between the main campaign and the sub campaigns is that the main campaign has the register button. So this register button is where you would send your fundraisers to go and set up for their own sub campaign. So they click register, they go through a registration form that you can customize. Oops, sorry, a little twitchy today. You can use our basic form. You don't have to customize it. And you will have all of the information that you need, or you can customize the registration form and ask for any extra information that you might need. We highly recommend you don't ask for information that you don't need, because you don't really want to provide too many barriers to registration. If you have a super long registration form, a fundraiser might go, this seems a little complicated, and I don't want to give you all of this information about myself that I don't think you need. So you don't want to have those roadblocks. So don't ask for information you don't actually need. And if they don't want to fundraise for you, but they still want to help, they can just donate to the master campaign still. They don't have to register to donate. They don't have to do any of that. You can still always donate to the main campaign. But if we scroll down here, you can see again, they have their story. This specific campaign was to help people in Nepal who were affected by the flooding that happened, unfortunately, right after COVID hit them hard. But if we go down, they actually have teams that you can join. You can still fundraise under those teams, but you can choose which event that you go to. So this is something that they would have also put in their registration form, is which event or which part of the event do you want to attend? Do you want to be a bit lazy about it and go walk circuits of the Vancouver City Centre? Or do you want to be absolutely crazy and run 20 kilometers of the Baden-Powell Trail, which, if you don't know Vancouver or North Vancouver, you see those mountains right behind me? Actually, I don't think you can. Here, let's pull me in. You see these mountains right behind me? The Baden-Powell goes from there all the way down there. So the crazier people would have wanted to join Nicole and do the crazy Baden-Powell Trail. Doesn't go up and down too much, but still, it's not something that I would run. Kemble, maybe, not me. But that's a way that you can provide options to your fundraisers. And the next campaign I'm going to show you is actually all about virtual events. So don't worry about the fear if you're still in an area where people are a bit nervous about holding live events right now. Virtual events are still a thing, and hybrid events are still a thing. But let's go to, where are our fundraisers? There we go, leaderboards. So if we go into the leaderboards, then you can see that we here have teams as well as individual fundraisers. And I want to show you this because let's look at this campaign cycle. This is one campaign, one sub-campaign. They only have a team of one. Okay, let's see if anyone has a team of more than one. Who doesn't? Daniel's got to have a team of more than one. There we go. Daniel's got a team of 7. Okay, so this is a sub-campaign owned by a team. Now this team shares one sub-campaign, but FundRazr, the platform, knows when each individual team member inspires contributions. So if I was on this team and I was logged in to my user profile on FundRazr, and I share this campaign from my user profile, anyone who clicks on a link that I share from my user profile, the system is going to know that person is here because Shannon inspired them to be here. So when they donate, that donation is going to be attributed to me. All of the contributions that each team member inspires all roll up into one pot right here, but you will still know that Anne inspired $460. Daniel inspired $13,500. Daniel's the one who owns Himalayan Life. So if you're thinking, oh my gosh, I don't think I could inspire that. Daniel is a very important person in Himalayan Life. He owns it, he runs it, he has a huge network. That's part of the reason. But you can see, every other person on their team, they also get credit for what they raise. So team owns one sub-campaign, but they still get credit for what they raise. So if you have prizes or anything like that for who raises the most money, then you will be able to tell that even if the person is on a team sub-campaign. So that's the main reason why I wanted to show you this specific one, is I wanted to show you what team campaigns looked like. But the last peer-to-peer campaign I'm going to show you is this one. This is the virtual run for Romania. So again, this one is ended. This is the main campaign. If it was live, you will still see the register button and the contribute button. But I wanted to show you this because Run for Romania is from iTeams Canada. It's a Canadian organization who raises funds for orphanages in Romania. But then COVID hit and they couldn't do their actual in-person event anymore. So they did a virtual event. And what a virtual event means is you dictate what you want the fundraiser to do, and they do that on their own. So this was still a run, or a run or a walk, etc. I can't remember if it was 5K or 10K. Oh, okay. You can complete the traditional 5K or 2K. Awesome. For us lazy people. And basically what you do is on the day of the event, you go and you do that 2K or that 5K wherever you want. If you want to do it, running circles around your apartment, great. If you want to do it outside in a park, great. If you want to do it up a mountain like that one, then you can do that, and all the more power to you. But you can still run virtual events. These are becoming more and more common, and hybrid events are becoming more common. So I'm pretty sure in 2002, they ran their first hybrid event. They decided to do it for Romania and the Ukraine, which is awesome. But they provided in-person events as well as the option to still fundraise, but do it virtually. And when you do it virtually, the really cool thing is that when the fundraisers put up pictures of them doing the event, so here's me and my dog, or me and my whole family walking 2K around our neighborhood, everyone took pictures and then uploaded it to their sub campaigns. And this gallery here on the main campaign brings all of those pictures up into one gallery that they turned into a slideshow. So you can see we've got 78 pictures and videos that people have uploaded onto their sub campaigns that were automatically brought up into this gallery. And the first year that they ran this in 2020, they told us that people, their participants said that they felt more engaged and more in solidarity than even the in-person event, because they were all on their phones and doing their updates on their campaigns, and then everyone else was there too, so they were liking them, they were commenting on them, and it was just a really cool way to bring everyone together. So that's what a virtual event means. Is basically like you can have a party on Zoom or something like that, but you can have an event where we want you to do this thing, run 5K, walk 2K, bunny hop for 30 seconds, whatever it is, you can do it all online and still have it extremely engaging. Okay, so let's go back to our presentation. That is peer-to-peer campaigns. Are there any questions whatsoever while I take a quick sip of water?
Yeah, so you can use the chat function, or you can use the question and answer function, which is just at the bottom. Or if you don't know how to exactly phrase your word out, you can definitely just raise your hand and we'll be able to give you the permission to unmute so you can speak. But yeah, feel free to either plop them in one of those ways, or we can just keep going. So I'll give it a few seconds here just to see if any come in.
And even if you want to make a comment, Kemball's there watching the chat. If you want to chat with him, while the presentation is going on about, maybe a peer-to-peer campaign that you know of or have done, please let us know. Kemball's very friendly, trust me. Okay. Next one is do it yourself. Now, do it yourself is a lot like peer-to-peer, except it's not based around an event. The idea is you're providing a platform for your network to do whatever they want to fundraise for you. And whenever, you can actually run your main campaign unending. Or if you want to do it, this is going to be the 2022 year, you can run it for the 2022 year and start again in 2023. But the basics are exactly the same, except there's really no competition factor. So we don't add a leaderboard in, we add a grid in. Why would you choose a DIY campaign? Again, same idea as a peer-to-peer campaign. You have a chance to target a whole new community of supporters because your network is going to target their own networks to fund their sub-campaign, their fundraiser. It also allows them to choose how they're going to help. So a lot of events, for example, are based around an activity, usually a race, bike, run, walk, swim, whatnot. Not all of us are people who want to participate in a race. me, myself, and I included, hate running. Running is awful. And it's very good for you though. Highly recommend. But this lets them to choose how they do it. They can even do something as simple as a birthday fundraiser. You know, they register for the week before their birthday or just on the day or the month or whatnot. They say, hey, I love this organization, considering donating in for my birthday to this organization. Just something as simple as that. And again, there's no competition factor. So for those people who aren't very competitive, a little bit nervous about participating in that kind of competition, this is a much more relaxed version. So examples, we have do something for cancer care. Let me drag in here. Okay, so Cancer Care, big organization in the States. And every year they run this campaign called Do Something for Cancer Care. And that's basically what it is help raise money for us and choose whatever it is that you want to do. So the setup is the same. You can see you've got, instead of the register button, they've got the start a fundraiser. And then you've got the contribute button right there. So if you don't want to start a fundraiser, but you still want to do something for cancer care, you can simply just donate to the main campaign right here. And all of the sub campaigns, their funds raised are brought up into the overall raised here. The master campaign still has a goal. I'm not going to go over all the intricate details of how to choose a goal and how the sub campaign goals relate to this. But essentially, you can choose whether or not you have one stagnant goal for your main campaign, or if you want to have the goals for the sub campaign accumulate into the master campaign goal. That's not recommended because all it takes is one cheeky person who says that they want to raise $1 million for you. And then all of a sudden you've got $1 million goal. And if you have $1 million goal, it doesn't look, or, you know, a $10 million goal. It doesn't look too credible because the chances of you reaching $1 million goal in a short timeline is very slim. So, you know, say we had 62 weeks running and we had $60,000 raised of a $10 million goal, that's not going to look as good. So that's why it's not recommended to have your main campaign goal have anything to do with what your sub-campaign members decide their goals are going to be. And if that sounds confusing, don't worry. We have lots of resources online and Kemble and I are here to help clarify it for you. Now, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. This is not a true DIY layout on Fundraiser. It is a DIY campaign because there's not an event and the fundraisers can choose to do whatever they want, but the layout is still a peer-to-peer layout because they chose to have leaderboards. So that's why it looks like this, but the next example I'm going to give you is a true DIY layout and they have the proper grid form. But let's look at what some of these people did. I mean, these guys, they hosted a Halloween party. I don't know what Assorted Nuts did. Who's Assorted Nuts? And let's see what they did. So they chose Sing the Song Blinding Lights by The Weeknd and Share It With Us. Oh, that's interesting. So they did a TikTok challenge. These are getting very popular right now as the TikTok challenges. So that's what they chose to do, these guys. So you can see how they can choose to do whatever they want. And they still can tell about what they want you to do as the donor in their story. But Cancer Care as an organization, they don't have to manage this campaign. The funds go directly to them. So if anyone hits contribute, it goes to their Stripe and PayPal accounts. And then at the bottom here, they can still say what they want to say about their organization. They don't have to worry about banking on the fundraiser themselves. to explain what cancer care is, they can do it themselves and set it up once so that when a sub campaign is automatically created, it's ready to go. So it's super, super easy. Okay. Now the next campaign I'm going to show you is a true DIY campaign. And this one is for One Girl Can. So One Girl Can is an organization that helps girls in African communities go to school, essentially. So this campaign is a collaboration between One Girl Can and Traction on Demand. Traction on Demand is an outside organization who wants their employees to raise funds for One Girl Can. So the employees can register as individuals or as teams of themselves for their own sub-campaign. And these sub-campaigns are essentially raising funds for one girl. So team 6 is fundraising for Jemima. Team 9 is fundraising for Priska. So this is the grid layout. This is a true DIY campaign layout. So if I just happened upon this campaign, maybe I know Traction on Demand and I saw an advertisement that they as an organization were raising funds for One Girl Can. I don't know particularly any of the employees of Traction on Demand, or maybe I know too many of them and I don't know who to choose. I can look here and read all of the different stories of the different girls that they're trying to send to school. I can choose to donate from here. This grid, it updates, or sorry, it randomizes every 3 minutes. So I'm viewing this campaign now. If I were to refresh it 3 minutes from now, it's going to be in a different order, because the whole idea is we want to give each campaign the opportunity to be on top, because there's no competition factor. There's no leaderboard. So there's no one campaign will always be on top. This is all randomized. But yeah, that's a true DIY campaign with the grid here. This is the main campaign again, register button, contribute button. And then if we were to go and click on, let's click on Jemima here, you can see again, the campaign looks remarkably similar to the main campaign without a register button, and the share buttons are all still there. And then you've got Jemima's story here. So same basic idea as a peer-to-peer campaign, except no competition factor. All right, let's go back to our slideshow. And the last one we're going to go over is micro projects. Now, the difference between micro projects and DIY and peer-to-peer campaigns is that you usually don't have people registering to fundraise for you. So this is not about bringing in your community to be fundraisers. This is breaking down one campaign into different campaigns to make the value of supporters' contribution more obvious and to make the likelihood of you hitting your goal better. Because large goals are difficult to achieve. Like I said, if you have a goal that is, $200,000 with one story, maybe it's to build a building. This is a very common example of people who are using micro projects is, they need a new facility. And a new facility is going to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. But having one campaign with a $600,000 goal without much of a change in the story, that's going to be much more difficult to be successful. You would need an extremely large audience and huge reach to reach that goal. But you might be able to entice your donors to contribute multiple times if you break one project down into smaller projects so that it's easier for supporters to see the impact and the value of their donation. And also, too much information can overwhelm or confuse donors. So if you do have a big project with a lot of details and one story on those details, chances are your reader's not going to read all of it, because we're inundated with information on the internet. And if they see, you know, a huge story to read, they might go, oh, I don't really want to read this. I either don't have time or I'm not much of a reader, et cetera, et cetera. So we want to make this easier to hit our goals by breaking the project down. So we're going to go over 2 examples here. The first one is the 12 Planes of Christmas. I'm pretty sure, excuse me, need another drink here. I'm pretty sure this is our founder and CEO Daryl's favorite campaign ever, because what this is the commemorative Air Force trying to restore a bunch of old warplanes. So this is the main campaign for the commemorative Air Force's 12 Planes of Christmas 2021. They do this every year. 2022 is probably going to come out soon. But you can see they have a $175,000 goal. And they could very easily have said, you know, we have X amount of planes. I know it says 12 planes of Christmas, but I'm pretty sure, yeah, they have 44. They could have run, you know, one campaign and said, we have these 44 planes that we really want to restore for historical value, and had one campaign, one ask, one goal, one story. It would have been extremely difficult to hit their goal if it was just that one story. So what they did was they broke down that ask into sub-campaigns, one for each plane, because each plane has its own story and its own connections. And even if you have absolutely no idea about any planes, current or old, like myself, you might find a connection to one specific plane. And a good example of this is this one. This plane is nicknamed Rosie after Rosie the Riveter. And, you know, full disclosure, we're Canadian. I'm Canadian, Kemble's Canadian, and the commemorative Air Force is down in Texas, so it's American. Even I know who Rosie the Riveter is. It's very ingrained in our culture as well. So this is the one that I probably would relate to the most. And if we go down here, it has its own story and explains why they nicknamed this plane Rosie. And I know last year's campaign, this one doesn't have any updates, unfortunately, but last year's campaign actually had an update with a picture of a woman who was a riveter, a Rosie the Riveter. So the updates are specific to this campaign. So if I were to donate to this campaign and you update this sub-campaign, that update will only notify supporters of this campaign. So I'm not going to get notifications with updates on the 43 other planes. I'm going to get notifications of the updates of this campaign, the one that I'm interested in. So you, oh, there you go. The slideshow just gave the Rosie the Riveter picture. So you don't have to worry about, you know, what if I have 5 sub-campaigns or 45 sub-campaigns and I'm updating each one, or my team is updating each one. I don't want people to be inundated with all of this information. They're not. They're only going to get the information for the campaign that they donated to. Again, this is a really cool campaign. If you're a plane person, if you're a history buff, you should definitely check out some of these. Each campaign is run by a different branch of the Air Force. So keep that in mind. Or branch or base? Base, yes. So one base manages one campaign. So there's not one person managing 45 campaigns. So if you're sitting here going, how does one person do that? It's very helpful to have a team of people helping you with your sub-campaigns. But the organization itself owns each sub-campaign. So that's why you can see on the main campaign itself, there's not a register button. It's just a support button. You can choose to have a register button on a micro project. But if you do, chances are you probably want a peer-to-peer or a DIY. And the next micro project I'm going to show you is this one. This is another one of my favorite campaigns. This is a campaign to raise money for a very rare childhood disease called PAX1. And to be perfectly honest, online fundraisers to raise money for scientific research are traditionally not super successful unless you're a huge organization like Cancer Care or Heart and Stroke Foundation or something like that. And this is because people have a hard time seeing the value of their donation because they're not going to see a change anytime in the future, because scientific research takes time. It's very difficult to say, we're going to raise $180,000 and this is what you're going to see with that money. It's very difficult to do that. So that's why it's hard for online campaigns to raise funds for scientific research. But the woman who started the PAX1 Foundation is the mother of this beautiful little girl here. And what she did was she called on her network of families who have children with this disease. And now we have micro projects, and each project is the story of a child who suffers from this condition. So you can see how it would be much easier to relate when you hear the story of each of these beautiful little kids. And then, you've got the families of those kids who are running each sub-campaign and targeting their networks and telling their stories and emotionally connecting with their donors. So that is the reason why this campaign, started by a brand new foundation, raised over $170,000 USD. They did have some help. They had $56,000 in matching contributions from a sponsor. It was an anonymous sponsor. I have no idea who it was. So that definitely does help. But take that away, and that's still over $100,000 US for scientific research into a disease, which is amazing. So this is a perfect example of how micro projects help break down a big ask with one story that you might not connect with into a smaller campaign with a smaller story that is very easy to emotionally connect with. Okay. So that's the last type of a campaign that we're going to explain. So just as a recap, we went over peer-to-peer, do-it-yourself, and micro projects. Now, micro projects you can have with a grid or a leaderboard. It's entirely up to you. Maybe you want to pit your campaigns against each other. For whatever reason, I've known campaigns that have done that, and that's perfectly fine. But if you do want a register button, choose do-it-yourself or peer-to-peer. You can turn the register button on and off with these, but honestly, the only difference between a peer-to-peer campaign and a micro project with leaderboard is the fact that the registration button isn't there. And the only difference between a do-it-yourself campaign and a micro project with grid is because the registration button isn't there. It's the only difference, technically. So you want that one, you want that one, you want that one, or you want that one. Okay, now how to set up. We have 10 minutes left. I talked way too much, which, is par for the course with me. But it's very easy to set up a sub-campaign. When you start a campaign, if you've never done it before, you just go to our homepage, fundraiser.com, you click Get Started Free, and what it's going to take you through is a campaign creation. And every campaign that you create is started as a standard campaign, and then you just need to change its layout. So when you have your campaign, you go to your sidebar menu and you click Edit, and then you click Layout. And in that layout, you will be able to choose peer-to-peer, DIY, micro projects with leaderboard, or grid. There's a few other layouts there as well. Those aren't sub-campaigns, but that's where those layouts live too. And then you just click that, hit save, and then boom, your campaign is now a peer-to-peer campaign. We have lots of resources online that will help you populate and do best practices for these campaigns. I just finished a very large, detailed how-to guide on peer-to-peer campaigns, since they're the most popular. It is about 2 days away from being released. It just needs to have a couple of things tweaked, but we will have a very detailed guide on peer-to-peer campaigns, which is a precursor to also having a guide to the other ones as well. but you do have a lot of different resources available to you. Multi-tier menu. I did not update this. The multi-tier menu is now the sub-campaigns menu. People were very confused when we kept saying multi-tier, so we just changed it to sub-campaigns. But in your sidebar menu, you're going to see something that says sub-campaigns. That's all of your settings for your sub-campaigns. The registration menu is still there, still live. That's where you go to all of the edit functions for your registration process, if you have one. The sub-campaign menu will also have your list of sub-campaigns in them. So if you want to see all of your sub-campaigns in one place, that's going to have the list there. And your fundraisers menu is if you have people registering for your campaign, that's the menu where each individual fundraiser will live, and you can do things there such as switch the teams they're on if they're accidentally on the wrong team, see who's raised the most versus who's raised the least. You can download a form or a spreadsheet that will have all of the information that they entered in their registration form. So those menus, sub-campaign, fundraisers, and registration, those are your three menus that will basically hold all of the settings for your sub-campaigns. Okay, we went over a lot, but again, remember, we have lots of resources for you. I highly recommend you check out the Fundraiser Hub if you're not on it. This is brand new, so that's why there's not a whole lot of discussion on it yet. But go on, click on a forum, start a discussion about sub-campaigns and see what other people have done. Check out our toolkits. This is where the peer-to-peer guide that I've created will be up in a couple of days. So definitely log into the Fundraiser Hub. This is a different login than the Fundraiser platform, just so you know, because it's hosted on another site. And then you can also go to our help center, which is where you go for technical help on your campaign. So if you're unsure of a setting or how to work the story editor, this is the how-to guide for all of our platforms because they're all based on the same basic layout. So Fundraiser, CocoaPay, and Crowdfunder all belong to Connection Point. So that's why it's one help center. And again, you will get links to these in the follow-up email. So don't worry about hurrying and writing these down. Okay, Campbell, I talked for way longer than I thought I would, but we still have 6 minutes. Do we have any outstanding questions?
There was one that just came in through the question and answer function. It was asking if we have the opportunity or the ability to change the goal. For example, they want to do 10,000 t-shirts instead of dollar amounts. So we don't have the ability to do that just yet. That's a great request. But what you can do is have a graphic there that says, one t-shirt is $15. Help us get to our goal of X amount of thing that will get these kind of t-shirts. But that was a great question that we had in the chat.
Well, you can have rewards on your sub campaigns as well. So yeah, if you have, donate $50 and you get a t-shirt, you can set those up on your main campaign and have it apply to all of your sub campaigns as well. And set it up so that your sub campaign owners cannot change them. So that is still entirely possible on your sub campaigns. Yes. Anything else, Campbell?
Not at the moment, but again, everyone is welcome to use the chat function, raise your hand, or use the question and answer function, just while we have Shannon here just for the last 5 minutes. So if there's any quick questions, please feel free to jot them down and we'll get to them as quickly as possible. And also sometimes, questions kind of come up later in the day. So if it's around lunchtime, like, oh, great question, feel free to send them over our way. We'll be happy to answer them. But yeah, we can just give a few more minutes here and then we can just see if there's any questions that come up.
And if you listen really hard, you can hear my partner in the background on his own work Zoom. Welcome to the days of working from home. Oh, thank you, Elizabeth. It's very kind. Okay, so I don't think we have any other questions right now. So I am going to stop the recording. There you go.